Hey, you blink, I'll cut your eyelids off. Don't you blink.
I got you.
Let's go.
And just to wrap up right now, too, coaching carousel right now, we got 5 openings right now. With the early one getting beheaded earlier in the season was the Carolina Panthers, Matt Rule. That was back on October 10th. About a month later, it was November 7th, the Colts hire, which Bill Cowher was very critical of on CBS back in one of the pre or post games. We heard and got ripped to shreds by Chris Pandog Russo. You also have the Denver Broncos, Nathaniel Hackett, fired the day after Christmas. Lovie Smith basically kind of stuck it to the Texans right there by going for the winning 2-point conversion instead of securing the number 1 pick. Bears are about a factor of that. Be a question that they're going to trade down that pick and turn the multiple picks, build a team, or keep the number 1 pick for interior defense lineman or edge rusher. And of course, you got the Cardinals, Cliff Kingsbury. All those 5 teams between the Cardinals, Texans, Broncos, Colts, Panthers, which one would you say looks more attractive for someone to come into and work with? All those teams.
I think it's either the Colts or the Panthers jobs. I think are 2 really good jobs. I think now neither owner necessarily I would want to work for. I think Irsay is probably a decent, nice guy, but he obviously isn't afraid to just make crazy decisions. And I didn't think Frank Reich deserved to be fired after 9 games. I mean, they were right in the hunt. I do think that the South. So if you look at the pros and cons of the Colts, I wouldn't want to work for that owner personally, but it's a team that, a year ago was 9-8, 2 years ago was 11-5. So, I mean, it's a team that largely is intact, is pretty good. Jonathan Taylor is one of the best running backs in the league. They have a really good offensive line, a good defense with, Leonard and company. So, nice city to live in, and the division isn't that hard, even though Jacksonville looks like they're going to be a good team here for a while. And it looks like, and I think Mike Vrabel is a really good coach, so I don't expect the Titans to be down forever. And it does look like Houston's going to be, I don't see really a future in sight for them as far as being good. Those are the pros and cons there. Carolina, again, similar situation. I mean, you're in a weak division. I mean, those are the 2 weakest divisions in the league that we're talking about. So, and now with Brady most likely leaving, well, he's going to leave Tampa Bay. He's done there. So I'd probably go Carolina. I think Tepper I'd rather work for, I think, even though, again, he's kind of pulled the trigger on coaches as well. I think that Carolina would be my pick. I just thought they played really well under Wilkes down the stretch. They kind of showed what they can do. I'd keep Wilkes personally. That's what I would do. Doesn't look like they're going to do that. Then I might hire Hackett as the OC and do that. But I think Carolina would be the job I'd pick.
I'd probably go with the Colts only. Probably if the coaching candidate, whoever gets that job, you got to look at it from a legacy standpoint too, to reestablish the Colts. Plus, they need to quit doing these band-aid jobs of being like quarterbacks where it's like Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan, or like these vets. They had quick fixes for like the last 3 seasons. You need a franchise quarterback right now and someone to work with, kind of like how Sean Payton did with the Saints. Doesn't seem like likely, he's going to be coming back soon. Maybe that'll change. But one last thought before I get you out here, Brian. Thanks, Jeff, for doing this, by the way.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure.
Since we're usually talk Steelers before in the past, Brian Flores right now, that almost a year ago since he's sued the league after being talked in by the owner of the Miami Dolphins, accusing him of having him trying to lose games, get draft capital. Now remember, he was fired by the Miami Dolphins owner at the end of that season. He's had a pretty good legit track record there. Did not make the playoffs, but Mike Tomlin obviously took a chance on him, looked out for him, and did a pretty good, solid job. It was patience, but they got the run defense back into respectability. Now he's getting some opportunity as a defense coordinator. I know the Browns was one of the very first teams that called him. Scale of 1 to 10, how soon, likely in the next year or 2 or 3, that he gets back to a head coaching position?
Man, I don't know.
How soon in the league?
That's a good question. I didn't mean to cut you off. That's a good question. I think I don't know. He might never get another one. I honestly, and I don't know if he wants another one. I mean, he probably does. It could be replacing Mike Tomlin when Mike Tomlin decides to retire when he does. Honestly, and I don't know if it's a foregone conclusion that Flores is leaving. I think that there was a consensus that he might, just because he was obviously very overqualified to do the job he did in Pittsburgh. He wasn't even a defensive coordinator. He was like assistant head coach and defensive whatever, secondary background, whatever he was doing. But yeah, not the main coordinator of a unit, right? But I think he's valued in Pittsburgh. And I think for Flores, and again, I don't know him, but I would imagine he probably is also looking at what kind of environment does he want to work in, right? And I'm sure, I think by all accounts, he's happy in Pittsburgh. He likes working in Pittsburgh. He likes working with Mike Tomlin. I don't know if you heard that Kenny Pickett's podcast with Cam Hayward recently, where he said that Flores has really helped him work on the 2-minute offense with the advice that he gave him, and they were texting and stuff. And so, Flores is valued in Pittsburgh, and I could see, Tomlin down the line, if he coaches a few more years, gives the reins to Flores. Now, Flores at that point would probably had to have ascended to defensive coordinator, but yeah, the head coaching part's interesting because if you're looking at it right now, he's not getting any head coaching looks. So I don't know if we'll ever get another chance to be a head coach.
I thought I heard what the Houston Texans that coach swore. I heard from a source. Nothing final.
Oh, maybe the Texans. But why would you want that job?
Texans are proven to be toxic the last.
Well, not to mention they don't give minority coaches much of a shot. So if I'm him, I would rather take a coordinator job in Denver over the head coaching job in Houston. Right? Just my 2 cents.
Well, I tell you sorry for cutting you off, but I'd say one team, if they were to consider him, if they decide to give him a head coaching job, I look at the Arizona Cardinals with Kyler Murray right there. Kyler Murray's put Cliff Kingsbury on blast, very upset for having the stipulations in the contract to have over 4 hours of study to get the guaranteed money. He was looking trigger on his clause. I would find the Cardinals be an interesting one as well, right there, someone you can work with. I think he's still a pretty good quarterback, mobility-wise, pass. Need someone to relate to and continue to take next gradual steps to be a big game winner.
I don't know. There's something about him that doesn't pass the sniff test to me. I'm not really sure what it is. I think that there's some maturity problems. There was obviously that clause in there. It seems like he is mopey. Again, I don't know him well. I've never spoken with him, but to me, there's something there with Murray that does not pass the sniff test. And again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somebody will come in there. He's a good player, like you said. He's a Pro Bowl caliber guy, but to me, there's just something there that just seems a little off.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. And speaking of off, we're going to have to go ahead and call this one a close. But my friend, it has been a while seeing you, my friend. A lot of interesting times has taken place, man. Glad to be at the Steelers-Raiders game a couple months ago. Still heartbroken over Franco's passing.
Me too.
I'm starting to wonder, who will be that next person if they ever decide to do another jersey retirement. I tell you what, I tend to think maybe Ben Roethlisberger, but I thought about this a couple days ago. If they're going to do Ben Roethlisberger, why not do Terry Bradshaw and Ben Roethlisberger at the same time? Only because the gap in between buying a franchise quarterback. You don't want to slight Bradshaw as much as he's been away from the organization for a lot of years and move on with his life. But I think both have been instrumental. Those would be my closing thoughts to you.
Yeah, the only thing that to me with the retirements that is kind of unfortunate is Jack Ham had a huge impact on those teams, right? Mel Blount had a huge impact on those teams, and neither one will probably get their jersey retired. So I think that's really the only thing. Now, Joe Green was so amazing and was such an impact on that team that he's a defensive tackle, but he's going to get it. But after that, and not that Franco didn't deserve it. He definitely did and certainly was deserving. But I think after that, it gets harder because, Bradshaw should, as you said, but to me, it's what are the Steelers looking for with retired jerseys? It seems clear to me that you have had to have continued to have a relationship with the team post playing days. Now, I know Franco never had, I don't think, an official role with the team since he retired, but he was still very big in the Pittsburgh community. I'm sure if you watched that Football Life, I'm sure you did, right, with Franco. I've seen it a couple of times already. Franco is still very much in the community. He still was at Steelers games. He was still doing things with the team. He was big with the Hall of Fame Museum. Did you visit that, by the way? The Hall of Honor Museum?
Unfortunately, just no disrespect, but to Uber and Lyft prices, especially in today's economy, no disrespect. I had to cut my trip just a little bit short. Understandably, but it was nice to see that online. I did have.
But I wrote a story about the Hall of Honor Museum. If you or anybody wants to read it, and I kind of gave it my
review. Check that out.
Thought it was awesome. And to me, it for you, it's a trip down your experience as a fan. Is what I would say, and you don't know that when you're going in, but they have a section for each era, the 70s, 80s, all of them. And to me, it's kind of like whichever one you spend the most time on is probably the era that meant the most to you. And you kind of go through your own memories of being a fan. To me, I spent most of my time reading about the 90s team because that was the team I grew up with, right? And so really, really cool. It's not very big, but it's big enough. I mean, it's got everything you need. And it's a great, great thing. And I like, not big meaning you could whiz through it and you could take your time and it's an hour, or you can go through it fast. It'll take you 30 minutes. I took about 45 minutes to walk it. But it's really awesome. Highly recommend it. I do think Bradshaw should be the next guy if they ever do choose to retire another jersey. And then, Ben after that. Jerome would be a guy I think they should retire his jersey. Troy. But again, I think for the Steelers, they do try to look at guys that remained a fixture with the team post-playing days. And I don't think that Terry qualifies there. So, we'll see, what Ben decides to do in his retirement.
Definitely. Well, Brian, it was a pleasure as always. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, follow this wonderful man on Twitter and Instagram at Bryan DeArdo. He's a CBS writer right there. Always posting good stuff, still Steelers related, but also across the league. Brian, I can't wait to see the formality of these playoffs right now. Final four right now. Sad that we're at this point because it's near the end of football, but then spring football.
It's never over, Charles. It's never over, man. It's never over. It's free agency. It's the draft.
I know. But just talking about like core action right there.
Oh, I feel you, but it's never over, man. It's never over.
Need to grab some chunky soup right now from back in the days of Harry Callis' voice. Well, anyway, Brian, thanks again for doing this. Once again, you can follow me on social media as well at MassSteelCGR and at MassSteel Nation on Twitter and Instagram. As always, leave it. Don't be trolling. Be rolling. Brian, stay safe and please stay in touch, man.
You too, Charles. We'll do, buddy. See ya.
Thanks, bud. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Thank you for watching the Mass Steel Podcast with your host, Charles Prodigy Richey, here on YouTube. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button. And for all the latest Mass Steel Podcast episodes, feel free to download them on Mixcloud, Anchor.fm, and SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcasts.